so bored. And I'm still bored. I think I will check my bank account. What else? I'm charging my phone. And all I will say because I don't want to say. In the apartment I'm living in at the moment. What else? My family origin presents party. Yeah, we're so disgusting. My money and they get it all that we receive money. So that I realize I'm a victim of them reading me, stealing from me, getting when we receive money. Stealing my homes, my vehicles, the person who una curiosidad, ni mono se fue tanta mal la gente dice. Ew. It's disgusting. Mostly everyone in my family of origin believes. Ew. I'm tagging that behind this postnatal Interpol, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, the Justice Department in the United States, the International Criminal Court, the U.S. Army, the U.S. Marines, maybe the U.S. Navy. Even though the International Criminal Court exists, I'm thinking that penalty for everyone. That has caused my depression, my poverty. Lonely to be separate. What excuse did they use? Tratando de violar a Keilany or confessing that they raped Keilany. Did they visit the man's daughter? Y le dijeron a la gente, estamos inaugurando the man's daughter. They're so gross. They're disgusting. These people are disgusting. You can decapitate my means daughters and sons. That raped me, steal my money, and get in the way of me receiving money. Just para que se lo mamen. Pretending to be me, y hay gente que se presta a eso tan puerca. Fo. You can decapitate las liches que se lo maman, pretending to be me, me roban mi dinero y se quedan en mi casa sin mi permiso. Y me roban mi vehículo as of 1999. I've had at least 4 BMWs. I paid for at least one of them, and I've yet to drive any of them because these leashes are so gross. They're so disrespectful. They're disgusting. Ew. They're used to raping people, saying that the insults are just like, whatever. Ew. They're very disturbing. Ew. You can decapitate Guerrillas Guerrero that steals Jayden and Keilany's child support money. You can decapitate the Raveli that's after my generational wealth that I don't have access to. La tipa una puerca, una asquerosidad. Anyways, Brandon, Raven are raping, es que asco, esta tipa una puerca. Y ella viola en el chico. You can decapitate Mariana Daza. You can decapitate Claudia Gabriela Martinez Urias. You can decapitate Rosaura Soto Rosa. You can decapitate Tila Cole. She stays in my house without my permission, drives my vehicles without my permission, steals my money, and gets in the way of me receiving money. You can decapitate Arlene Lorenzo. You can decapitate Jayden Guerrero. What else? You can decapitate David Ledesma that raped me in 2017, 2018. 2019, 2020, este leech me roba mi dinero porque él está enamorado de uno de ellos. ¿Y qué enamorado? Dan un asco, gente no saben ser hombre todavía. Y son unos viejos ya. Una asquerosidad este tipo. What else? What else? What else? What else? What else? Still trying to load my CPS energy mail. You can decapitate how many citizens assistance. Direct me, steal my money, and get in the way of me receiving money. What else? What else? What else? What else? What else? You can decapitate La Leech, Erica Guardapi. You can decapitate La Leech, Sunset Stanley. You can decapitate La Leech, Pamela Martin. You can decapitate La Leech, Lily Carrero. You can decapitate La Leech, Ana Carrero. You can decapitate La Leech, Maria Elizabeth Lorenzo. You can decapitate La Leech, Mirna Garcia Barrios, or Mirna Barrios. You can decapitate El Leech, Luisa Gonzalez. You can decapitate El Leech, Raymond Ramirez. You can decapitate El Leech, Amarela Chavarria. You can decapitate Benjamin Sarson, sons that rape me, steal my money, and get in the way of me receiving money. That fill my homes and my vehicles with leeches. Therefore, I can't get my money or my vehicle. My stomach just made a sound for. What else? I'm starving. I don't have breakfast in my apartment full. These leeches are so disgusting. When I get those. Ew. So people are watching Zero like this house. I'm heading to the library soon. Yeah, then up there. So footsteps right now. Isn't enough for me to feel satisfied. Without a kitchen, it's even to make my dietary needs. Oh, I don't know about. I want me to die of exhaustion, pretending that they rape me. They're disgusting. They're like the worst of the worst of the worst of the worst of the worst. They're disgusting. Ew. No quiero see that. Anyways. What else? You can decapitate La Leech, Katie Leon. You can decapitate La Leech, Lisenia Nieves if she's still alive. According to Katie Leon, she's dead. You can decapitate La Leech, Carolina Chavez. You can decapitate La Leech, Mandy Henson. You can decapitate La Leech, Delitza Martinez. You can decapitate La Leech, Nereida Galicia. You can decapitate Benjamin Sorensen's sons that rape me and steal my money and get in the way of me receiving money. You can decapitate Heraldo Torres Gallosa if he stays in my homes without my permission, drives my vehicles without my permission, steals my money and gets in the way of me receiving money. You can decapitate Luis Lorenzo. What else? What else? You can decapitate Evelyn Lorenzo, the wife and the wife. Una leech que me roba mi dinero and gets in the way of me receiving money. So I can't find someone to date porque le da envidia todo lo que yo hago. Dan un asco, gente, dan un asco. Son una basura. She steals my money and then wants me to work in something that I wouldn't enjoy. So I will show her them heels and her try to rape me. She's disgusting. This leech is disgusting. Ew. You can decapitate young Kim Tower Limon. You can decapitate Evelyn Lorenzo Acevedo. You can decapitate La Leech Maria Luisa Rosa. You can decapitate La Leech Marilyn Lorenzo Acevedo. You can decapitate La Leech Desenia Ramirez Lorenzo. You can decapitate David Ledesma, que es una basura, una asquerosidad. What else? You can decapitate Richie Hill. That raped me in 2023. You can decapitate Germinos Carrera, steals my money. That's hilarious. If they thought that it would be dumb to just blame Megan for my poverty. They're so gross. They think that because I don't ever think about them or I never talk to them, that I won't remember the damage that they do to me. They're disgusting. You can decapitate Sarah Francis. Una puerca, una asquerosidad. You can decapitate Benjamin Suarez and his sons that rape me, steal my money, and get in the way of me receiving money. You can decapitate La Lich, Evelyn de Jesus. You can decapitate Berenice Venegas La Lich. You can decapitate Sarah Ryder Woolsey. You can decapitate Sarah Francis. What else? What else? What else? What else? What else? They're disgusting, gente. They're disgusting. Estos tipos son una basura, una asquerosidad. Ew, 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 pero una asquerosidad. Ew, no se quieren ni ellos mismos. I miss Jayden. And I look forward to stitching again so that I can add my work to Instagram. What else? What else? What else? What else? What else? I'm so bored. I'm so bored. What else? What else? What else? What else? I didn't receive money to this account. Check my GoFundMe campaign. What else? What else? What else? What else? What else? Once I'm financially stable, I plan to travel the planet and meet people ideally polyamorous. I'm excited about that. What else? What else? What else? What else? What else? I'm hungry. I don't money for food. I don't have food in my apartment. There's no electricity there. What else? 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 You can decapitate Jayden and Lorenzo. You can decapitate Pamela Martin. You can decapitate Arlene Lorenzo. Y se quedó en mi casa sin mi permiso, pero me robó mi vehículo. La tipa una puerca, estos tipos son the worst of the worst of the worst. Nunca le dan a ese hombre. Una asquerosidad, gente. Son una asquerosidad. Son una basura. You can decapitate me on these that's the only money and get no receive money. And they want me to be saying that all the time. But eventually the FBI will kill them, people say. So that's why I'm not embarrassed to have to say this for many days. You can decapitate Arlene Lorenzo that steals my money, I guess, in the way of me receive money. So if I were in a trial, which these videos could be used in court against these leeches that steal from me already, I would most likely have to endure having to be in court hearing about these leeches stealing from me, some from the perspective of like, I'm an aware victim. I give out the story of the events that have happened towards me. What else? 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 Esta gente son una asquerosidad. You can decapitate Yesenia Ramirez Lorenzo. The wife into the wife. Ew, they're sex addicts. Ew, so gross. Ew, 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 ew. What else? So, I'm so. You can give me money in person. Little people. It's. Hey, I'm just calling, just by the time it's calling, what is the inside straight to my heart. Arlene Lorenzo, show by NTAYIFAY. I am tired of. I don't know what that is. Pay $150. It could be credit, it could have been based on what I witnessed when I was growing up. And Leach pays just the bare minimum so that disconnection notice goes away. Pero the electricity is still shut off. Dame un asco, gente. Ellos quieren matar gente a la mala. Son unos puercos. Anyways, I can visit my apartment and see that there's no electricity. What else? What else? What else? What else? What else? So on. So. You can give me money in person to my girlfriend. I'll be sending this to people through Instagram later. Excited. What else? What else? What else? As of yesterday, as of a few days already, my electricity has been shut off. What else? What else? What else? Or the library opens at 10. So I'm heading over my TV. So two people are watching to like this fence. What else? What else? What else? What else? How to shop at H&M for that. One person's watching 0 like this post. A pedicure. Man, I missed it. I was thinking more about the Jayden and Keilany Tampa next week. I'm bored. I'm bored. I'm bored. I'll be on Tinder more next week. Once I'm financially stable. I'll be on Tinder and Bumble. Like, I'm taking myself home so I can date. I'm casual sex only, anyways. I'm sexual for the most part, so I can be like very happy with myself, very happy with Jayden and Keilany, and then happy with the occasional fuck. I want to live with someone very much. What is that called? Proactively having sex with that person every day. What else? 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 Captivating means substance. That possibly go on saying that pues yo le tengo que mamar el bicho a él. I want my money back. These leeches. Terrible. Decades ago. To starve me, trying to rape me, and my parents are war heroes. If Gloria is still alive, she and I won't suffer from crippling anxiety and depression due to these leeches being so gross. Ew, 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 ew. So they withhold my money and starve me. They're so disgusting. Entonces esto se la pasa por ahí parading himself como si fuera un socialite cuando es un nobody. El tipo me roba mi dinero since I was a very young child, so I couldn't date him. Terrorize my parents to not give me money to rape me. El tipo es un puerco. And then se la pasa por ahí con mi dinero. Como la basura que es una basura. You can decapitate me, having sons and sons that rape me, steal my money, and get in the way of me receiving money. What else? What else? What else? Okay. Some leech possibly went on to pay $150 so that the notice that it's disconnected goes away. I've heard decades ago. I'm not the only victim of abuse in my family of origin. These people have been trying to kill people that raped them. They're so gross. The initial, like, if someone is raping one needs to either remove oneself from the situation, never speak to that person, or kill the person immediately. If they're being raped, they can't starve people for raping them. So they get in the way of my life, stealing my money, and get in the way of me receiving money, possibly talking about my discharge and saying that's unhealthy when it's always been healthy. What else? 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 Or putting guns to people's heads. Because I, as a child, said to them that they can't be starving. They disrupt the entire cycle of human life when they're after starving the people that rape them. What else? What else? What else? What else? What else? When does that stay here? So I'm getting plastic breadsticks at the library. Water. And the banana. I mean, HP. And a banana is takes in water, and then hang out all day at Bazan Branch Library. Anyways, otra leche que la mamá, la mamá. Y de lo Dagosko, inte Dagosko. They would stalk anyone. They would have fame or notoriety to rape them decades ago. So isn't that Whitney Girl a victim of them? Ew, 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 ew. El tipo un puerco, anyways. Bumble's still fun. It's like if you go in with the mentality of dating people, a lot of people will see this from Bumble and say we're not affected. Like I'm just like having a great time on that. At the moment, that's how it should be. What else? 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 Anyways, I'll call later maybe and ask what that is for. Anyways, my electricity is shut off and I have a past due bill. But yeah, like I heard decades ago that these people, after have a pattern of abusing people where they go on and make like a very minimum payment so that the notice goes away. There was a notice there yesterday that my electricity has been shut off. So they go on to make if that's not an adjustment from CPS, it could have been like a very minimum payment just to get that note out of there. So their host still raped them today and are like, oh no, Arlene's electricity is shut off and she's online crying. Anyways, you can decapitate my homie so as soon as systems that rape me to steal my money and get in the way of me receiving money. What else? 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 I don't have hot water in my apartment. So I've been doing that. Half us bathing with cold water. Ew, ew, ew. You can decapitate me. How many sweaters sons that rape me to steal my money and get in the way of receiving money? I'm tagging the FBI in this post, NATO, the Interpol, the Justice Department, in the United States, the Army, the U.S. Marines. International Criminal Court, even though the International Criminal Court exists. Anyways, I've been sending some texts in case they're not hanging, they would not yet. What else? 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 Even though the International Criminal Court exists, I'm seeking the death penalty for the people that steal from me, that get in the way of me receiving money. I'm an American citizen. So the laws of the FBI and the United States Department of Justice apply to the leeches that steal from me. What else? What else? What they could have like denunciadas. I don't know if they have a social security, they say. Or if they. What else? What else? What else? What else? They don't have a social security in their afterline possible. Anyways, I'm you know fake behind the handwriting. What else? 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 I'm not ready. I don't ever pay attention to leeches que no se quieren ellos mismos y no se van a respetar en Roma mamándose la leech que me quiere matar y que le dice a él que si él me mata entonces ella se lo mama. Y él hace eso, tratando de no tener no asco, gente, es una asquerosidad. Oh. No driver's license from Texas. What else is I'm gonna shop for a Lexus RCR today by myself. What else? Where can I debit card that I love using. What else? I have a credit card that's costing 2 of them, 3. You can decapitate it how many cents. You can decapitate it how many cents that rape me and steal my money and get in the way of me receiving money. My credit card is fast too. What else? I take my craft really serious. Arlene Lorenzo. So you can decapitate it how many cents that rape me and steal my money and get in the way of me receiving money. That may be faking. Owning or like they register names in other places, in other parts of the planet. So they're like, Arlene Lorenzo ya existe en Singapur, ya lo registré y me debe dinero. There's no such thing as that. Ellos son leeches, gente, pero una asquerosidad. Look at what they cause on to me, my health declining because I've been starving for more than 30 years. They're disgusting. Ni una cita me llamaron, se robaron mi dinero. Ni un masaje, se lo pagan a las liches que me quieren matar porque those need to not be stressed. El tipo es un puerco, no sabe lo que es ser hombre. Anyways, you can give me money also through PayPal. It's Air Blue Sky. What else? What else? In the meantime, you can decapitate Andrea Kurd if she steals my money. You can decapitate Aunt Lauren if she steals my money or gets in the way of receiving money too. Esta gente son unos puercos, una asquerosidad. They traffic me into being near. Leeches se han mamado as if trying to insult me as if I'm not a woman. Dan asco. You can definitely homie, whatever her last name is. She gets in the way of me receiving money. You can decapitate Tina Cole if she gets in the way of me receiving money. You can decapitate that leech if he gets in the way of me receiving money. Or stays in my house without my permission. You can decapitate Floyd Spencer. If he gets in the way of me receiving money, steals my money. Stays in my homes without my permission, steals my vehicles. What else? Ellos si quieren hacer importante lo demás. What else? I need money ASAP. I'm going to try to figure in the meantime, I'm starting to more food trying to get people. Ideally, polyamorous you can decapitate this leech that went on to tell Ager decades ago to not take me to hotels and mistreat me. Ew. What else? They told you to not give me money, so I couldn't flee. I met this leech once since my birth, possibly, but I may remember them from like age 3 or so. Ew, I've never had sex with them and I won't ever have sex with them. They're so disgusting. There's no such thing as first dibs of my vagina, and they don't get it. They're disturbing. One of them didn't want to date me because he said maybe he couldn't afford whoever I would fall in love with, which I don't think that should be a reason for people to be held back. What else? What else? What else? What else? What else? People could become financially stable overnight or just deal with the loss immediately, not like 30 años, the days of our lives of missing Arlene en la lich mamándomelo y yo violando y violando a la gente porque Arlene no me lo mama. Dame un gasto como se dejan de coger de pendejo. Ew, and because they're sex addicts and they want to meet a daily quota supuestamente decades ago. Ew, ew, ew. They're like la cualquiera que se lo mame. No importa lo que diga, cómo se comporte, they go on to encourage that gross behavior. They're the worst problem in this planet. For real, for real. They create the worst unbalance. Ew, ew, ew. Son una basura. What else? What else? What else? I miss Jayden and I miss Keilany. Anyways, my electricity is shut off. What else? What else? What else? What else? What else? What else? I'll be sending my GoFundMe campaign to people. I'm gonna finish stitching this piece, and I haven't been able to do so. Thereafter, the artwork that I have in my apartment most likely da un asco. They're like, Arlene se muera en un artwork. Ew, they have no respect towards humanity. They're so gross. They're disgusting. Ew, 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 ew. Anyways, I'm heading over to HEB and then to the zone library. We'll spend most of the day charging my phone, sending my family company to people through Instagram. What else? 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 They brand people, they're girls, because they're sex addicts. They go like, no, 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 ella no es Arlene así. Ella es Arlene come mierda, que lo tiene todo yo, porque así es como yo la veo en mi fantasía. So they're like very disturbing. Or no, ella Arlene, hoy pobrecita Mariana del barrio, está en una esquina en San Antonio, con un sign toda sucia. They're girls. Ellos se masturban a la gente que doesn't have feelings for them. They're disgusting. Ew, 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 ew. Esta gente tan puerca se masturba. People say at the thought of people that don't have feelings for them. They're so disgusting. Ew, ew, ew. Este pendejo, una asquerosidad. That because my mother had me unsupervised as a toddler y hubo gente que me metió dedo. Él quiere que yo continúe con esta gente asquerosa hasta yo darle un orgasmo a la gente. Ew, 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 ew. So they steal my money, they get in the way of me receiving money. They facilitated females raping me in the past. They're so gross. You can decapitate La Leach, Jennifer Marie Vasquez. You can decapitate Sarah Francis. You can decapitate Yesenia Roman Feliciano. What else? 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 This is awesome. What else? You can decapitate my homies, sons that rape me to steal my money and get in the way of receiving money. You can decapitate you and love you, sons. Io che decapite Alice, Arlene Lorenzo Savello, Canal you can decapitate Arlene Lorenzo Savello, you can decapitate Jayden Lorenzo Savello, you can decapitate Maria Angelis Lorenzo, you can decapitate Jayden Lorenzo Chaparro. Esta gente son una basura, una asquerosidad. Anyways, I'm heading back to my apartment. I need to use brush. And what else? My phone is charged at 5%, so that should be enough. Use my bus there. They're so dumb. They don't understand anything. Those bitches that I grew up around, they thought literally the world would change for you. Ew, the highway system forever. And those people that I grew up around, the way. Ew, 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 ew. Mostly everyone that I grew up around is a tourist, so gross, so gross. Ew. I'm telling you guys, man, this house made no interval. I guess if I'm gonna pull the security, I guess it's the department. And they asked to send to an auto from the court. Yes, I made it, yes, please. Yes, unfortunately. What else? They kill those patients that are urologists so they can find out how much money people need in us. They're nosy. Invade privacy so then they masturbate to get things for them. So pathetic losers, with no talent whatsoever. Ew, ew, ew. Anyways, I'm gonna end this video so I can save the battery of my phone for me to sleep.